Jai Hind and good afternoon to all respected professors and my dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome Mr. Amey Joshi for today's session on Industry Speak to give us some insight on aviation industry. Our topic for today would be impact of COVID-19 on aviation. Mr. Joshi is an active part of aviation industry from last decade, and he's an aviator from childhood himself. He's worked for airlines like Kingfisher and Go Air in India, and also in some airlines of Southeast Asian countries. He's actively into network planning, data analysis, and data crunching. He's been to 33 countries, traveled on 55 airlines around the globe, and has been to 87 airports. He also works as a columnist for different newspaper and media agencies, and has a blogging page named Network Thoughts. So Mr. Joshi was also quoted in Mann Ki Baat by our Prime Minister for his contribution to National Civil Aviation Policy of 2016. So, sir, we would like to welcome you, and you can start your session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the lovely welcome. Good afternoon to all of you. I know this is right in between the lunch time for all of us, and we are going to have this presentation for, let's say, about 35 minutes or so, after which I will have a long time available for answering all your questions to the best of what I can. So I'll switch over to one of the video before we can go ahead with the presentation, so that you can better understand what is actually happening with aviation. Right, this will require you to have your sound at the maximum, and that's all.
Just once, I'd like to get out of LaGuardia on time. Well, you know the only way to get out of LaGuardia on time. You know, what's that? Fly to JFK. Buddy.
Takeoff minimum fuel quantity verified. 19,000 pounds required. We got 21.8 on board.
19,000 pounds required, 21.8 on board.
Cactus 1549, runway 4, clear for takeoff.
Cactus 1549, clear for takeoff.
Oh.
Clear this side. Positive rate.
Gear up, please.
Gear up. Nice view of the Hudson. I'll never get over how beautiful it is up here.
Life's easier in the air.
Yes, it is. Birds.
Whoa.
might be a good idea just to keep your seatbelts on.
Yeah.
Let me switch back to the presentation. I don't know how many of you would have seen this video. I highly recommend that you see this movie, Sully. This is an incident about a decade or so when Captain Sully landed his A320 in the Hudson, saving all the lives. More than aviation, it's also about leadership on how he took control of things, and how he ensured that every person is safe. So it's a very good movie to watch from leadership skills perspective. The reason of showing you this video was something different. Aviation was going strong. As you could see, the plane is taxiing out, taking off at a very good speed and trying to stabilize. Suddenly there was a bird hit, engines lost, and the plane later goes in the Hudson. That is exactly what has happened to aviation with COVID-19. Right? So let us look at how it was in the last 2 years. So global passenger count was going up and up. The industry had fully recovered from the recession of 2008-9. There were new markets which were opening up, new planes which were entering with airlines, the A350, the 787, which were helping build new routes for the airlines. And we were talking of some unprecedented routes like a Sydney, Perth, London, or a Singapore, Los Angeles, or San Francisco non-stop. All this was being possible because of profitability. And as recorded by airlines worldwide, 2018-19 was one of the most profitable years globally. So Delta, American, some of the biggest airlines in the world had actually recorded the best ever profits in 2018-19. India, of course, 2019 was a problem. Jet Airways went down. But prior to that, the 4 years saw record-breaking growth of 20% year on year. If you see the graph there, it has been going up since 2013 like anything. So fall of Jet Airways led to moderation in growth and capacity. Still, Indian Airlines have some of the record orders placed with Airbus and Boeing for the planes. From here, this is how we will cover the presentation. We will look at some key numbers and leading up to the crisis. What is the situation now? What does the future behold? And what can we do? So I'll move on to the first one, key numbers, right? This is where we stand in terms of aviation in India. We have 650 commercial aircraft in India as compared to 32,000 plus worldwide. 104 operational airports. This was pre-COVID grounding, and 8 airlines in India. Of course, we are minuscule when it comes to the global count, but we are very strong because we were inching towards becoming the third largest market. We had the highest growth rate for 4 years. So we were doing very strong when it came to growing. But then this is what happened. 30th January, first known case of COVID-19 reported. Early February, government started banning all travel from China. Mid-March, flights were banned from countries to Southeast Asia and China. 22nd of March, international operations were suspended. And in wee hours of 25th March, all operations were suspended as the country went into a lockdown. By 25th of May, limited air services returned only on the domestic side. But we still don't know when everything would be up and running and how long that will take. Right. So we'll move to what is the situation now, because all this I talked about in the last 2 slides, we all know. I have got a snapshot from IATA's economic survey. These were the active routes end of March 2020. This was still before the world went into a lockdown. So thicker the red line, more number of routes, and still looks very thick in US and some parts of China. But this is how thick it was in March 2019. So you see how much air traffic has gone down in a span of a year. And this was still before the world went into a lockdown. So I have some more charts for you. And this leads to how did we handle the previous crisis. And this comes from ICAO. And ICAO is the International Civil Aviation Organization. So you can see on your screen 1972, the global oil crisis, not much difference. The Iran-Iraq war in 80s, again, it flattened. It did not dip. The Gulf crisis in 1991, which was the Gulf War between Kuwait and Iraq, again, it did not go down drastically. The Asian economic crisis in 1997, again, because it was restricted to Asia, it did not go down. 9/11 terrorist attack. Now, US is the biggest market. There was a huge impact. Still, it stabilized pretty quickly. There was a small dip when the SARS outbreak happened in 2001, and then the financial crisis of 2008-9, which I referred to in my first slide. Since then, it has been going up, up, up like it has never been. And then suddenly comes COVID, where it almost drops to zero. And if you see where it is right now, as of today, we are talking of the traffic numbers, which were exactly same in 1972. So if you see, we have gone back at least 4 decades, if not more, even when we consider the recovery in the next 4 to 5 months before the year ends, we have gone back at least 4 decades. And that's what one big hit it has been. Now, ICAO estimates that the decline in world travel will be between 48 to 62%. So nearly half of the air traffic of what it was before will be gone by the time of December, right? So where do the airlines stand in all this picture? Most airlines are still grounded across the world. The ones which are operating at 25-30%. Airlines have started converting their planes to carry cargo, because earlier cargo used to come with dedicated freighter planes, plus they used to come in the belly of the aircraft. So with aircraft on ground and not flying to any places, cargo movement is hampered. So what airlines are doing is they're removing seats and using that place to carry cargo. Capacity is down to 5% of last year. So last year, if at this time you had 100 flights, today you have only 5 flights. And there is also some calculation which I did based on data available for some European carriers, May 2020, that is the last month, versus May 2019. So Alitalia, which is the national carrier of Italy, operated only 13% of the flights of what it operated in May last year. British Airways, 3%. Iberia, which is a Spanish carrier, 7%. KLM, the carrier based out of Amsterdam, Netherlands, 2.4%. Lufthansa, one of the biggest carriers and a German national carrier, 5.1%. Swiss, again, Switzerland's national carrier, 1.4%. And Virgin Atlantic, the London-based carrier known for its founder, 0%. It was totally grounded in May 2020 as compared to May 2019. And Indian carriers, of course, May was completely down except for the last 5 days, which accounts to less than 1%. So that's still 0%. So what are airlines doing? If you see on the right, this is SpiceJet. SpiceJet started carrying cargo on seat, allowed by DGCA, the regulator, utilizing the aircraft to carry cargo and make some money. Not just that, they also converted 3 aircraft, their Q400 turboprop aircraft, to carry cargo. So all seats are removed in line with how the global airlines are doing it, and then carrying cargo, right? So alternate sources of revenue in tough times. So of course, that gets us to the next point. How are airlines managing this, right? So I have created a couple of boxes to help you understand how the whole business works in a nutshell. So where do airlines get the money from? So one is passenger bookings, people like you and me who travel to our hometowns or to visit our friends and family or some family functions. Cargo, advertising. So there are advertised at the back of the boarding pass or inside the planes. So that is what it comes. And ancillary revenue. So some of us like to have food, some of us might buy something on the plane. So that is all the ancillary revenue which comes into picture. Now, this is where airline spends its money. So they spend on employee cost, which is paying salaries of their staff, crew, cockpit crew, ground staff, so on and so forth. Fuel for operating the aircraft. Maintenance, because that's a pretty heavy activity. And then leasing, because most of these planes are leased from somebody else. So you pay a monthly rent, a leasing cost, which is attached. So what has happened in this case is income has stopped. So there is no passenger booking. Cargo again is limited. Of course, because there is no passenger booking, there is no advertising, and there are no ancillary revenue coming in. But their expenditure hasn't gone down. The plane is still with them. So lease rental of plane still goes on. Now those planes are parked at airports, so parking charges still go on, and so does the employee cost. So there are, of course, a couple of airlines who have put employees on leave without pay. They have cut salaries, but that cost has not become zero. It's still, there is some cost. So now where will this money come from? It's coming from savings. So large airlines like Indigo, who have huge cash balances with them, are utilizing those savings. There are companies the world over who have got government bailed out, and there are soft loans which are coming. But there is a problem with government bailouts. Though India has not had a bailout, wherever government bailouts have been, countries have given billions of dollars as aid to airlines to survive this time. But this is what the problem is. IATA did a study, and it says that 55% of government aid is actually a loan. So it creates debt, and that translates into 67 billion US dollars. So what happens is, you are getting this money right now, but eventually in the next 1, 2, or 3 years, you have to repay this to government. So probably you would have failed today and you would have shut the airline. But now over the next 3 years, you have to pay this, and maybe the airline might actually get shut 3 years down the line instead of today. So you've saved it today, but there is more pain coming in the next 2 to 3 years. You would have read probably that Nok Scoot, which is a long-haul low-cost airline based out of Thailand, decided to shut operations yesterday. Virgin Australia shut down in April. Now they've got a new owner in the form of Bain Capital, again announced yesterday. So a lot of such things are happening the world over. But now when you see 123 million debt, 123 million of bailout money given out so far, 67 or over half of that is actually on the debt side. Right, we'll move on to the next one. This is the whole background. This is the situation now. What does the future behold, right? This is where it stands. A study by IATA says that 65.5 million people are dependent on aviation industry globally. Of course, this includes allied industries like hotels, travel, tourism. And these three industries really go hand in hand. So 25 million jobs out of this are at risk, and almost half of that, 11.2 million, are in Asia Pacific. Now, to help this better, I digged out some data related to how emerging economies, mostly in Asia Pacific, are dependent on inbound spending and investment. So we see that Thailand, 22% of the economy is dependent on tourism. India is 9%. Indonesia is 6%. So when we see these particular countries, they will be more impacted because there is going to be a case where people are not going to travel. 9% of India is going to be dependent on inbound tourism, people, foreigners who are coming to India. And then if they stop coming, it's obviously going to have an impact on the job. So pretty scary situation if you go purely by numbers. But then let's say how India really stands. So Jet Airways shut down in 2019. The other airlines have recorded losses. Indigo hasn't recorded bumper profits like in the past. So it's not all hunky-dory like it used to be before. So the need of the hour is to have a viable airline sector. And that has to be done by some structural changes, because we cannot afford another airline collapsing and leading to more shortage in the market. Because COVID will be temporary. From March and April to getting into June, we have already started learning to live with it, take enough care. People have started traveling. So overcome will happen. We will overcome COVID. But of course, that cannot be at the cost of all businesses going down. So currently, every state has different norm. Institutional quarantine, home quarantine, all these things on the longer period is going to kill business for everything. So slowly but surely, we have to ensure that things open up and they move in the right direction. So I'm now relying on how the traffic will be back. Everybody has done a study, and I have myself done a study which comes in the next slide. And this is what ICAO says. So actual path from January to May, then a grounding in April, and then people have been talking on the economic front that will it be a V-shaped recovery? Will it be a W-shaped recovery? Will it be a U-shaped recovery? So how it will stand like, and even if we consider that it will be any kind of recovery, we are not going back to where we were pre-COVID, at least this year. So that is the key takeaway from this. If it's a L-shaped or a W-shaped recovery, we are actually far worse than what we were. And V-shaped is still really a very, very, very bleak chance. This is my study, which was published on Money Control a couple of weeks ago. So what essentially I did is I took all the passenger numbers, the actual ones in India, going back from 2017 and seeing how they've been growing or going down. And you can see a clear drop around April, May last year. That's when Jet Airways went down. And then a sudden drop to zero in April. And then considering that it's restarted in May, and it grows at a very modest 5 to 15% month over month as confidence returns, and maybe 6 months down the line we are back to half of what the growth was, and it's going to take at least end of 2021 to get to levels where we were in January 2020. So it's going to be 2 years according to my study, and that is still the best case scenario. So what I did take is consider traffic at 25%. The government actually said 33%. So I'm saying that only 25% traffic comes back. And so far, let me tell you, in June at least, this 25% is holding true because traffic is back only 24%. So that's where we stand. Will there be a miraculous shift in it? And there is a possibility. So what if there is a medicine? If a treatment is found soon and death rate goes down, probably people will be willing to travel. What if there is a vaccine? What if survival rate goes up? What if the spread is contained, and as the government is currently saying that we will build bubbles, so you can go from one green zone to another in terms of one country to another. So probably these things will help tourism, no doubt. But in all four which I have listed out, there is a big question mark. There is no clarity on medicine, vaccine, survival rate. Things as they look today are not very great to have answers for this. So I'll move on to the last one. Probably 13-14 years ago, when I was a student, and people would come and give lectures, of course in person. Those were different days as they look now. I and my fellow students would always be interested in, all this is fine, we will get all this information if we dig a little, so that's good information to have, but what is it that we can do? Because I am here to start a career. I am here to ensure that I get a job, I get placed, and I have my ambitions, I have my goals. So what is it that we can do towards it, right? So too early to predict, since markets have just opened up. In India, the load factors are below 60%. Globally, the trend is shorter flights are empty. So if you're going from, let's say, Delhi to Chandigarh or Delhi to Jaipur, very easily a driving distance, and if you have a vehicle, you would actually say no to the flight, because you can take your own car and reach. It helps you stay away from people. You are in safety of your own car, and how it will be. But in India, due to not so good roads, these short sectors are very few where there are flights, and again there are very few flights. So the real concern, as I said, I used to be always worried about this, and I came out, I did my MBA and came out in 2008-9, which was again a biggest economic fall across the world. So I have been through something similar, though this looks much more challenging than the economic crisis of 2008-9. And of course, I was concerned about, will I get a job? And in such situation, what should I do to get a job? And I'm sure you have these concerns with you. And this is where I see the opportunity lies. India, as the world over, is quickly moving towards e-solutions. So if you see at airports, we have said that no more touching anything. You get your own web check-in done, you get your own ticket printed, nothing will happen here. You just come to the counter to place the baggage. So what that has meant is there is contactless boarding. So you scan your own boarding pass, you pay on your own via mobile. So these are opportunities which people are trying to explore. IT companies are getting into this to ensure that you come up with solutions quickly. So if you guys look at this side of business, there will be huge job opportunities. So you have to really understand where will the future be, read a lot about what things are happening the world over, because this is a chain. What happens in aviation or hotel is quickly adopted with each other. So what is today adopted in hotel, in aviation, you will soon have people in hotel industry adopt the same thing, contactless. You come, you don't have any contact, and the check-in is done. You get into the room, you don't have a room key, your mobile acts as a room key, and the room opens, and the same way it locks. This technology is already available. The question is adapting it, and now we are being forced to adapt. So will you have opportunities there? Yes, definitely. Can you immediately get placed there? Probably no. You will have to have a lot of understanding of this sector. You will have to have understanding of what others are doing, do a comparative benchmarking, see what are the challenges locally, and can this really come down to all the hotels, or will it get restricted to 5-star hotels because the cost involved is more. You have to really dig in and understand before you approach a company and say, okay, this is my analysis, I think this is where I can contribute, and if you recruit me, this will be the key benefits which you will have. So as I say, have knowledge and understanding, and that is what will get you through to the industry. So yes, these are challenging times, but it's not as if everything is stopped, everything is blocked, and you will have a tough time. No, you will have to slog a little more. You will have to be a little more patient, but you will have to really crack it by understanding the industry like nobody else. And this is what I say. It used to be, be master of one or be jack of all trades, so that you know everything. You know a little bit of aviation, a little bit of hospitality, a little bit of travel. But this is where we are heading. We have to be jack of all trades and then be master of one. So if you like something, let's say you like technology on the front desk of a hotel, then you have to really understand the whole thing around how a check-in would work, how a boarding process would work in case of airline, and then still not ignore all the other areas because they are very closely linked to each other. So that's where you should move from now on, to ensure that your path is easy. Right, these are the impacted sectors, and I think these companies very well. These are dream companies for a lot of people. They've been growing really at a very high pace. But broadly, the impacted sectors, airlines is one. Airlines is impacted because business travel is not there. When you take away travel, you have cab aggregators who lose business. Of course, food and beverages companies lose business, and hospitality lose business. And as you and me, professionals or would-be budding professionals in this travel, tourism, hospitality, airline sector, all of this impacts our job opportunities tremendously, right? So I think, yeah, I'll have this and then show you another video. I'm sure you have seen, all of you have seen that. Pretty funny, so to say, but that is where things are heading. So is this the future of air travel? As air travel came back, I'm sharing you some photos which the airline shared with me as their PR. And this is SpiceJet. This again is SpiceJet. This is the crew of Indigo. So this is Indigo. And then this is Vistara, right? So is this the future of air travel? We don't know. Whatever it is, if you can see here, there are a fair amount of people who are traveling. So it's not a sad sign. And then I'm sure all of you or most of you got this, the Indian Jugaad. I got this on WhatsApp. Somebody sent me saying this is what is happening at Mumbai airport right now. So people using their own shield, their helmets being used to board the flight to take care from the virus. So we don't know if this will be the way ahead, but definitely this looks like the way ahead. I'll take you to another video. I'm sure you've seen this this movie and this scene as well, but just hear what he says.
माँ को लेके मजाक नहीं है। अरे राजू, हम लोग पढ़ेंगे, जी लगा के पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन सिर्फ एग्जाम पास करने के लिए नहीं। किसी महापुरुष ने कहा है कि कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ो। सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सेलेंस का पीछा करो। सक्सेस झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी। किस महापुरुष ने कहा है?
Okay, with this, I think I'll open it up for questions. And I hope you enjoyed the video part of it, because that's where you should be headed. Don't listen and don't think of which Mahapurush said it. but do take the message out of it. That is where it is important. So I leave you with some of the logos where I've written or been quoted on aviation, and I'll open this up for questions. As sir suggested, we can have the questions being pasted in the chat, or you can just speak up, and any of it is fine with me.
Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful session. We have all known what is going inside the aviation industry and how our data is looking. Thank you so much. So guys, we are open for questions. Please type in your question. Also, sir, in the meantime, how do you see the coping up of Indian aviation industry in small helicopters or chopper industries? Because we have seen Pawan Hans being one of them, government fulfilled. But how do you see any other charter helicopter services coming up for short distances? Do you see that?
Well, helicopter has been a focus area for quite a few governments. Helicopter is also included in UDAN. So this government has got some subsidies as well for helicopter operations. Unfortunately, the challenges with helicopter operations is that most of these helipads have been developed at remote locations, maybe in Northeast, some areas in Himachal Pradesh or Uttarakhand. And these are areas which do not have the best of weather all year round. In fact, they don't have the best of weather for the entire day as well, and because they are in the hills, you have to take some extra protection and safety measures to ensure that the operations are safe, which actually puts a few operators on the back burner to exploit this opportunity completely. And the second thing is the cost of operations actually don't make it a very good alternative to flying. So when you're flying with 4 or 5 passengers, that cost can only be taken up by tourists. A local person will find it very difficult to shell as much money to reach quickly in these particular areas. Having said that, there are groups across the country, mainly in the metro cities, where you have people like Star Air's own Sanjay Godawat group. They have helicopters as part of them, and then they do operate as part of charter services or a scheduled shared services which happens across the country, but again very few and restricted. So the real challenge is actually the weather patterns where this has to be used, and anything beyond it's actually smaller aircraft under UDAN which are doing the mission. So that's where the helicopter industry stands, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, so I have we have a question. So what is your opinion regarding the role of government for survival of aviation industry in India? I strongly feel that government does have a leading role to play in survival of aviation industry in India, and it has to be done in multiple ways, not by doling out cash to every airline and saying, here, take your cash, now ensure that you can operate, but actually having a very good framework in terms of policies on what can be done, reducing the cost structure. For about 20 years now, everybody has been asking for including fuel as part of GST, or then earlier it was sales tax. But today we have fuel where every state has a different tax on that aviation turbine fuel, and then there is a central tax on it. So that takes a lot of toll on the cost which goes up. Similarly, there are a lot of regulations in place which actually ensure that airlines are paying out in dollars. So none of the leading airlines are leasing in Indian rupees, and everybody who has leased a plane actually is leasing it from a foreign lessor, which means the outpay is in dollar. So even if everything else remains the same and just the rupee dollar parity goes down, so rupee was trading at around 69-70 rupees to a dollar about 2 years back. Today it is 80 or so, and today it is between 75 and 80. So for doing nothing, you have actually paying a couple of rupees more per dollar, and then think that you're paying about 1.5 lakh dollars for leasing, and see how it translates into rupee when your income hasn't changed much. So you see the airfares have remained the same more or less over the last 2-3 years, sometimes even going down, and then your cost has gone up just because it is dollar denominated. So yes, there is a big role for government to play in ensuring that the aviation industry in India survives.
Sir, I have a question. Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. Sir, seeing the post-conflict scenario, do you think the chartered planes services will have a future in India? Because many people will be avoiding the main flights, like having people of 120 packs rather than going in charter flights.
Good question. I'm sure you all would have read news that a family of 4 chartered a flight from Bhopal to Delhi or things like that. Somebody chartered for pets, and there have been news all around, right? My opinion is that the demand won't go up substantially, and there is a reason, because charter flights are pretty expensive. A normal Indian household cannot afford a charter flight. It's only affordable by top 1 or 1.5% of the Indian population, and those were already availing services like business class or a shared charter in the past, and that's why there won't be a drastic jump in charter requirements. That is what I feel.
So adding to this question, do you see some private players coming into play for charter, like with example with ATR 42 or Cessna, something like that, smaller aircraft?
Good question. Probably not the ATR, but definitely the smaller jets like Cessnas or so many Bombardiers, Embraers, so many others which are available in the market, and that's more about 8 to 16 seater aircraft. Because the moment you go into the charter space with an ATR, it's very expensive to keep a ATR grounded till you get a charter. So your ATR, typically the 42 is somewhere around 48 seater, and the ATR 72 is around 74 seater. So to keep a plane with as many seats grounded is very expensive. The second challenging thing is when you have somebody like Indigo who has about 25 ATR in the fleet, chartering is very easy from a large operator than a small operator. And if you are chartering a 40-50 seater plane, it actually takes away the whole concept of flying exclusively. So it makes sense to have smaller jets which are faster, much faster than turboprop aircraft like the ATR, and have between 8 to 16 seats, because that is where the charter market lies.
How much is the average costing of a charter flight? Can you please give us an insight?
Yeah, it depends from aircraft to aircraft and airline to airline. But do expect, if any of you want to charter or all of you together want to enjoy a joyride, be ready to shell out around 3 lakh rupees for 1 hour of flight.
So, sir, if we charter a flight from Delhi to Mumbai or vice versa, so it will be around 6.5 lakh for.
Yes, that's approximate. Yeah, okay. Of course, it changes from time to time. Sometimes if an airline is already flying, let's say you go to one of the airlines and ask them for charter, and they're already flying on that route. So what they will do is they will book all the 180 seats for you and not give you additional flight, and that could actually be cheaper for you. But then again, that depends from time to time. Also, what is the current situation in the industry and what is the demand pattern? You're likely to get a charter at a cheaper rate in off season versus you asking for a charter on, say, a day before Diwali, when all flights are anyways full and you want to have one more flight. So that is how it works. I think there is a question here. I'll take that as well. How do you find the condition of Air India, which has in bad shape for last couple of years during the pandemic situation? Okay, so Air India indeed has been looking for a owner, and I think this time government was very keen to find a buyer and sell Air India till it got stuck in COVID. And I don't know when the next process would start and if it would be attractive, and if there is anybody else in the world who has money to purchase Air India. So yes, the condition from a financial perspective is bad. It has also impacted the operations because a lot of aircraft are grounded. It has also impacted the plane. So there are a lot of complaints people make about the seats are broken, the handle is broken, something else is not working, so on and so forth. But then government has been injecting a lot of funds into the airline. Personally, I feel that there is a limit up to which you can inject fund into an airline, because it has 12-13% share, and it takes up a sizable amount from the government perspective, which could actually be used at some other place. So let's see how the sale goes ahead for Air India, and if the new owner can turn it around, because not just Air India, almost every airline in India is struggling, and really we need to find a solution for all. Air India just the worst in the lot, is how I would say.
So, do you find any other airline company which might go out of business due to this COVID pandemic situation? Like the Jet Airways did already in the last year, but due to this situation, many of the more companies are in really mess, I guess.
Yes. Somehow I'm hopeful that all of them would make it on the other side of COVID. Again, it depends on how long this will last. If we are in this for a very long time, let's say this doesn't go for another year or so, then yes, a couple of them could go out of business. I don't want to take names right now, but a couple of them can go out of business. But if we can recover in say 6 months time, I don't see anybody going out of business. We should be good. Somehow all of them will shrink, all of them will be much smaller than what they are today, but nobody will go out of business.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for a wonderful insight and session.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
We see that there is a reduction of passengers, and all have estimated that aviation sector will take at least 2 years to come to the stage that was before COVID. So how do you see that government will government give money for development of infrastructure? We have heard that there is a fourth runway being built in Delhi's IGI. So do you see that government will be funding so much for infrastructure at this time?
Yes, I still believe yes is the answer, and there are a couple of reasons for it. We were working at most airports with over 100% capacity, right? So most of the airports in the country were operating at 110 to 140% capacity. So that's about 10 to 40% more. Now we have gone down to 33%. That is what the government cap is. Today, government has allowed 45%. Sooner or later, it will be 100%. Traffic will take time to come back, but whatever we can to improve the infrastructure right now will help us in the long run. So it's a matter of 1 or 2 years that we will be back to where we belong, and then the path will still be very high. So this is the time to get into it. As for fourth runway at IGI, it is actually a private enterprise, so they are going ahead with building. They had already tied up for the funds, and they have everything with them to ensure that they can build the fourth runway. Government spending would actually come at AAI airports, which is the Airport Authority of India controlled airports. Them actually don't have space to expand. So the expansion is happening on the terminal side, where a larger terminal is being built and so on and so forth. Again, most of this is already tendered work. So it's nothing that is new or about to begin. This is all given out. So those things will continue. Where will there be a pressure? According to me, if you are building a new greenfield airport, like let's say a new greenfield airport is planned in Pune, it has not moved ahead for a long time. There things will be in pressure, because where do you get the money from to ensure that it starts from scratch? Because when it starts from scratch, you have to give compensation to the landowners, which is a substantial part. After that, you do the bidding, tendering, and then the work starts. So from government perspective, you have to actually give the compensation, which forms the biggest part. Then you hand over that land to the private party, which will tie up the funds from banks, etc., and do it. So that is where it will be stuck. The rest, I feel that it will go on. Okay, so I have a question here. Insight on air cargo industry, jobs and specializations. Okay, good part to tackle out of this. Yes, indeed, cargo has been doing exceptionally well in current times. So that could be one area to look at. From jobs and specialization perspective, so this is how air cargo industry works in a nutshell. So you will have people tied up on the ground who are freight forwarding agents. So you will have the biggies like FedEx and DHL get their aircraft to India, offload whatever cargo they have, and it is left out to these agents or companies who will actually do the last mile delivery. This involves getting the cargo cleared through customs, through all the paperwork, getting it on the road, ensuring that you have strong logistics partner who can carry it for the last mile connectivity from the airport to maybe a warehouse, and then on to handing it over to one of the courier companies to do the door to door delivery. What specialization is required apart from understanding of the air cargo and the rules around it? So basically there is a lot of taxation which goes into air cargo. If you get pharma, you pay certain tax. If you get fruits and vegetables, you pay a lower tax. If you get something else, there is a different tax slab. So you need to understand that very well to ensure that you can quickly handle all the paperwork and go ahead with that paperwork. The other part you need to understand is the logistics industry, how that works. So terms like truckload, less than truckload, how things are combined. If it is fruits and vegetables, how they need a refrigerated truck, what is the deadline before which it has to reach the market, because that is dependent on how fresh your produce is, that it can be sold at a premium. Of course, you are not importing the usual vegetables from one part of the country to another. And I'll give you an example of SpiceJet, which is carrying prawns from Vizag, where there are prawns farms, to the western coast of India in Surat, and then exporting it and selling it to markets like Mumbai. So you cannot let the fish be dry or around for a long time, that it gets spoiled. So time is of essence when it comes to most of the air cargo, because if time is not important, then it will anyways come by ship. If time is important, only then will it come by air cargo. So those are the specializations, but a good understanding of logistics in addition to the air cargo and aviation industry will take you through in this industry. I hope that answers your question.
So we have one more question in the comment box.
Yeah, sorry, okay. What is your opinion of selling airline seats by taking consideration of social distancing? Is it feasible in long run? Well, honestly, I don't think it is feasible in long run, no matter how much I would like it to be a social distancing in terms of selling with a middle seat empty. This doesn't look feasible in the long run. Even it is not very feasible in the current run, because I attended a couple of to a lot of doctors, and they say that the way this disease spreads, social distancing inside the plane is not helping as much. There are a few things that you have to take care of, which is not touch your hands to your nose, mouth, or eyes across the journey, and keep using sanitizer. So it isn't a lot of feasible stuff from airline perspective or passenger perspective. But I do see few things out of this coming up. There could soon be ancillary revenue opportunity for airlines, where you can say that I will buy 2 seats, so the seat next to me will definitely be empty. So that is a mental piece for me. And if I am a family of 2, then I can buy this middle seat and only 2 of us will go. So those are things which could be helpful in the long run from airlines perspective. Maybe you may not pay for the entire seat, 2,000-3,000, but for 1,500 you will have your next seat empty. That could be one of the possibilities from airline perspective.
Any more questions?
Okay, so if there are more questions, of course, we are here. I leave you on the screen ways to follow Network Thoughts. There's a lot of blogging that I do. I also write for a couple of other publications, as you could see on the last slide. And there are different channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So for all the articles which I write, they are all posted on the Facebook page of Network Thoughts. So if you want to really read about wherever I have written, that would be one page where you can follow. For students, I'm very open to help as and when it is possible. And I leave you with my email ID there. So in case you need something in terms of understanding, you can write to me anytime. And I'm generally prompt to respond to students. I think a couple of students from your batch have have got in touch with me before, and that is how this session also got planned. So I leave you with this, and wishing you good luck for getting into the industry soon.
Any more questions, or we shall end this? Dilip sir, actually the email is on the screen itself. You can just copy the email from the screen.
It's there on the screen in the thank you note. Everything is with Network Thoughts, and then the email is also there. The website link is also there.
Okay, sir. So we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for taking our time and giving us this valuable and insightful session. We will also like to attend many more in the future if we have time and if we have queries regarding the same.
Sure. Thanks a lot. It was great interacting with you. Some good and great questions coming up. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed talking to you. And I wish you good luck. Thank you again for inviting and coordinating. That's it from my side.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Joshi, it's indeed really very informative and deep information related to aviation industry and impact of COVID-19. So on behalf of IITTM family and the audience as well as students, I would like to thank you for taking out your time and sharing your expertise on mentioned topic.
Sure. Thanks a lot. I think if everybody can switch on the screen, we can take a photo. It will help you with the us attended and how it was. I don't know if it's going to work well for everyone, but
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I'll wait for everyone to switch it on, and then I'll take a picture and share it with all of you, or I'll share it with Lama sir so that he can share it later.
Namaskar, Dilip sir. How are you?
Fine. Okay. Actually, I'm a regular listener of IITTM programs.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Actually, Dilip sir is from university, and he's an associate professor over there. Sorry.
Okay. Nice.
Even my students, all students from Bardhaman University, they are also a regular listener of your program. But recently, because of this training program undergone by Voice of India Tourism, they were busy. So that is the reason you are find less number of students. Otherwise, I have already instructed all my students to be there, because I am the first student of IITTM batch Bhubaneswar.
Yeah.
So personal affiliation with IITTM, and always there with IITTM. Whether it is good time or bad time, I always be happy with IITTM only. So thank you very much, Lamaji, for providing such a good opportunity for all not only for your students, but also students from other university, particularly Bardhaman University, for using this platform to get knowledge.
Yeah, I think most of the students are actually busy with the intensive work, so that's why today.
Yes.
Saturday also, that is the major issue. Weekdays, weekends. So that is the major issue, I think.
And my special thanks to Amir for providing such a great presentation on aviation industry, and he has rightfully giving all the details with suitable examples.
Sure. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Amir.
Yeah. So I've taken a screenshot. I don't think many have switched on the camera, but that's fine, because sometimes there are issues with switching on the camera. So that's okay. So thanks a lot again. Before we drop off, stay safe, stay healthy, and good day to all of you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.